Hello, my name is Leanne Lamb, and I'm with Contemporary Asian Theater Scene. It is my absolute pleasure to have with us Steve Spike Wong, playwright and creator of White Sky, Falling Dragon. Before we bring Steve into the conversation, I'd like to give you a little bit of background. Steve has been a playwright for most of his life. He has created not only works that have been performed in Santa Cruz County, his home, but they've been playing at the Marsh in San Francisco, off Broadway in New York, and literally around the world. In addition to his writing, he's been an educator for nearly 40 years at his home, Watsonville High School, also in Aptos High School, and our local Bay Area Los Gatos High School. And at Los Gatos, he was actually awarded Teacher of the Year several years. So he's definitely has this wonderful inspiration and touch that he can really reflect and give great stories. He's also the founder of soaringdragon.net, which is his theater company. And you can learn more about White Sky Falling Dragon if you go to that site. With that, I'd like to welcome Steve Spike Wong. Thank you,
Steve. Thank you, Leanne. It's great to be here with you again.
Excellent. Steve, thank you for having this wonderful backdrop for White Sky Falling Dragon. This is exciting because it is a world premiere at Mountain View Center for Performing Arts second stage. Can you give us a little bit of background on the play?
Yeah, the inspiration for the play was my father's service during World War II. He was a bombardier on B-17s. And as a Chinese American back then in the 1940s, he faced a lot of racism, even in the military, where he rose to the rank of captain, and he was discharged in 1945. And we had always wondered what he had done to, a Chinese guy in a period of racism to reach such a rank. And he never said much about it. He said, it wasn't much of anything really. But in 2014, when both of my parents passed, I discovered that my mom had saved every single letter that my dad had written home to her during the war, literally hundreds of letters. And so the big deal was I got to follow their romance when my dad was 19 and she was 7, my mom was 17. And it was just extraordinary, the things that he could reveal to her about his experiences. And I learned a lot about his attitude toward things. And a few years later, somewhere in the vicinity of 2018, I started seeing images of my dad coming home from the war. So I just typed out a set description, saw my dad walk in, and I just listened to what he had to say to his parents and what they were saying. And it was all in the context of this experience in the war. And then my dad coming home to traditional Chinese parents, but my dad knowing he had to do everything he could to become an American to succeed. And that's the basis of the play. It's this trauma of coming home and facing that cultural separation by conscious choice, the decisions to raise a family and how best to do it, and deal with issues of immigration and veterans affairs.
Whew, that's quite an endeavor. Quite an endeavor. What would you say are some of the key messages that audiences will be taking away from this?
Wow. Yeah. I have an overarching hope for the audience, and that is when they leave, they carry with them a sense of very powerful beauty amidst difficult situations in life. So I'm creating a play that has that kind of beauty, I hope, because the themes can be really difficult. So one of the issues is that families have culturally based as well as individual unit-based ways of solving challenges so that people can move forward. Another is that veterans come home with such a degree of trauma that trying to understand them can be an extremely difficult thing. And the last is that people do not tend to overcome these kinds of challenges alone. And that is, if people are open to listening, that sooner or later, someone close to them will rise up to help resolve the challenge.
Steve, when you're explaining your play, it seems to really resonate with what's happening with the times of Asian Americans nowadays. We're dealing with a lot of anti-Asian sentiment, incidents, and attacks. There's like a mirror here, and I'm wondering how you can reflect on this play with the times.
Yeah, it's really crucial. A crucial element in this play is the Chinese Exclusion Act. It's a dark experience in my grandparents' life, and it's a huge shadow over my parents' life, and indeed continues into my life as well. So a lot of the play is trying to deal with the grandparents' trauma and suffering strictly because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, and the way that they have to develop their own approach to accepting this kind of an injury, as well as developing the strength to move on in life, is an important thing that does relate to the anti-Asian environment of these days. And that is the idea of coming together as community, of finding, like having solutions to these particular challenges, and always working to find the way forward, whether it's education, work, different perspectives, helping people to accept each other. So that's one of the issues in this play as well, yet it's set in 1944.
There's an article that I was reading that was written about you, and you had a perspective, and I'm going to read the quote. "I realize you can write from your cultural background as truthfully as you can, and it becomes universal human story."
Yes.
Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, one of my plays from 2018 was a autobiographical monologue called Dragon Skin that covers 55 years of my life in a very short period of time. But it also dealt with issues of racism and family and obligations to parents or grandparents or even your culture. And I thought that this play was going to turn out to be me working through my particular identity and cultural issues and reaching this conclusion at the end. And it was extremely well received. But on opening night, the first audience member out into the lobby came up to me, stocky, strong gentleman. He came up to me and he grabbed my hand and he shook it. And I'll never forget how serious he was, because he said, "Let me tell you something. I am Greek." And that was my story. I was so overwhelmed. And that's when I realized, yes, beneath all of our culturally oriented stories is a very deep-rooted and common humanity.
That's absolutely beautiful. That's beautiful. I want to thank you so much for your time, Steve. I want to hear so much more, but I'm going to have to wait for your production. I'm very excited to see your production opening next Friday, and it's going to be going on for the weekends of end of August and the early September. So if you don't have your tickets, please buy them now from Mountain View Center for the Performing Arts. Buy them quick. And Steve, I wish you the best of luck and hope this story lives on in people will be entertained, educated, and come out with a sense of hope and beauty.
Thank you very much, Leah. Thank you.
Thank you.